Hello students, now we'll continue from the part from where we left in our last part. This is going to be the third part of this video. And in this video, we're basically trying to understand what is an object-oriented programming. But in order to understand object-oriented programming, we also have to understand what is procedural programming. And in order to understand procedural programming, we first need to understand the basics of programming. And thus, we are here with the basics of programming, where we saw in our last class that how we can simply output few things, like if you want to output some message like this, or if you want to output this kind of the value of expressions. You may also use variable to put the values here. You may use the expression and the variable all together. You may use all the string, you may use numbers as a string, and all these things are there. So in this way, we'll see something more now. Now, this version of println is going to show you the value of any expression and the use of a BODMAS rule. Here you may see that what I'm doing, I'm writing an expression inside parenthesis. This is the bracket, small bracket is called parenthesis in programming. So let us see what happens. Save it and compile it and run it. Look, value of expression comes 6. How it is coming? Quite easy to understand. 5 plus 4, 9, minus 3, 6. That's why this 6 is here, okay? But what happens when we do not put this, that's what we did in the last class, and we saw that it had problem with this operator. Let us also see this and learn once again. Make ourselves look. This has problem with this minus operator. You will get in detail the idea about behind this, why this has problem. But for right now, if you want to write the value of expression along with the message like this, then in the earlier example, I told you that you may put the result in a variable, like I put the long string, the expression, the value of this expression R, and I'm just outputting the value of R along with that. But in this case, if I want not to use the variable and directly we want the use of the result of the expression, then what we can do, we can simply write the expression. Let us replace that expression with this expression. Not copied. Look, this time what else we have done? What new thing we have done? We have just put the expression within the parenthesis. Now what happens when we put the things inside the parenthesis? It first get executed and the result is again concatenated with this with the help of this overloaded plus operator. Now this line may be a little complicated to you, but since it has been discussed and again it will be getting discussed. So it's good to understand what is overloading. Look, student, overloading is the concept of again object-oriented programming where we can assign more than one task to a function or to an operator. So here is that example. Normally plus operator is used to add two numbers. We all know this. Everybody knows this, that plus operator is used to add two numbers. But in Java or in other programming languages as well, the plus operator is overloaded. Means it has been assigned some more task. What are those tasks? Plus may be also used, as you can see here also, plus may be also used for concatenating. Now again and again this word concatenating is also being used. Concatenating simply means putting together two strings. Concatenating's word is related to string data and not with numbers. It is similar to add. Adding things, it is similar to add. But 4 plus 5, when it is added, it produces 9. But 4 and 5, when it is concatenated, it produces 4, 9. And here you can see that example. Look. 89 plus 90 is producing 8990. This is called concatenation, and addition, you all know, adding two numbers 4 plus 5. So this is what happens with plus, since plus is an overloaded operator. Now, if you have problem in understanding, leave it. You will understand it slowly as you will grow. Now, what I'm trying to tell is putting the expression inside the parenthesis helps you to get the calculation there only. Okay. So without the use of variable, you may get the calculation. So let us now once again save this file by pressing Ctrl S in this window, and then go back to compiler and then again compile back. Now there is no issue. Now see. I have to basically focus over the last line. This. So what done? Fine. This is how we completed the use of output and all. So this is how you have now understood how we can output. How we can output. So now we'll go to learn how we can input. So inputting can be done in various ways. You all know all the ways, most of the ways you know, the basic and the common ways, but still we'll revise the things and we'll correlate that concept, the inputting and all, with this thing. So now we are going to learn how input. I have made a comment here. These things will also get executed. Now here it will start. And yes, if suppose we don't want the execution of these lines, but we still want that this should be there, then we may use the multi-line comments. Multi-line comment do what? Do this. This slash and asterisk from here, and this, till this. These all have become comment. They are no more the part of the program. They are just comment. They will not be compiled. They will not be read by the compiler. They are just comments. So we just wanted to replace these things. I just wanted to remove this. I just wanted to remove all these things. But removing these things will totally erase the things. And if you want any part of code to be removed virtually, then we make them comment. So these things has been discussed. So in short, from this point to this point, codes are missing from there, although they are present. Anytime you need them back, you just have to do what? You just have to remove this. They will come back. Now it's okay, fine. They have now become the part of. They have now become the part of the program. But this making it comment also helps you to, without actually erasing it, it is erased. It just erased. It is no more the part of this. This has become comment. We'll have a special class regarding comments, but now it's not the time to discuss comment. Now we are going to learn how to input in the same program so that everything will be there in one program. To refer it further, look, inputting is done in various ways, but one of the most common way is just to assign. Assign means what? In order to understand input, you'll have to understand again a lot of things. So be very attentive and listen carefully. Inputting means what? Whenever we feed something to a computer, then it is called input. Feeding something means when we use the keyboard to type, or when we use microphone to speak, or when we put any input device, when we use any input device to input any kind of data, that is called input. So the thing is, let us correlate with one example. If you want your any household tasks to get done, for example, you want a sofa in your house, sofa. So what you can do, you hire a carpenter and you give him wood, logs, plywood and other things. So you are giving him something. So for him, for carpenter, all those things are input. He keeps all the things in separate places, and then he works, and it produces output in form of sofa. The same way you can correlate this with anything. You want wet flour, atta. What do? You take wheat to the flour mill. It is the input for him. He put the whole wheat into the grinding machine. The machine grinds it. It is processing, of course, but the whole wheat is the input. and then it produces output. The same way, whatever we feed inside the computer is input, and after feeding it, we need some output, and in between input and output, there is the most important thing, that is the processing, about which also we'll see. So I hope you all understand what is input. But the main thing that you have to understand here is, wherever we input something to a computer, where it gets stored. Yes, of course, if you are providing something to the computer, it must be stored somewhere. Yes, this is what you have to understand here. The place where the things get stored is, of course, memory, the main memory, the RAM. You all well know the structure of RAM. RAM is just like an Almira having lots and lots of racks, and each cell, its memory cell, is of 1 byte. You all know these things. So the point is, whenever we feed something, we need a specific place to keep those data. And those specific place or storage areas, of course, they are the memory cells, but they are given some name. And here is the concept of variables. Look, student, if you want to store anything, you first have to create a memory space to hold that thing, to keep that thing, to store that thing. So how can we decide what kind of a space we need, how much space we need? So being a programmer, you will need to have those ideas. So let me help you to understand this. Suppose you want to store one number. Now the question may be, why I'd like to store one number? Arey bhai, suppose you want to store one number for any further processing. Let me correlate this with a simple real life example. Suppose I want to know the trains running between two stations like Ranchi to Delhi. Suppose we want. Then the system needs, then what? The system needs what? System needs data. In what form? Yes, from where you have to go to where you have to go. So it gives you space, you play enter Ranchi to me, enter Delhi. Then where does this Ranchi and Delhi get stored? These things get stored there somewhere. The programmer had decided what has to be stored and how much space it need to take. It need to take. The same way, suppose you have to add two numbers. Suppose you have to make a simple program to add two numbers and you need to input two numbers. So keeping this thing in our mind, we need to decide what variables we must use. So in Java, we have one of the most common variable is int, for integer, int we write. We'll learn more about data types, although we have already seen, but in this new session, we'll again see these things. But in order to understand data type, you must have some idea about the variables also. So int is one kind of variable. Let me correlate this with RAM, and let me again use the Excel to simulate RAM. So this, suppose that this is RAM, and RAM is of 1 byte, of course, 1 byte. This is 1 byte, this is 1 byte, this is 1 byte, this is cell number 1. This is cell number 1, cell number 2, cell number 3, cell number 4. Like this, these are the cell numbers. Okay. How many cells do we have in 1 GB of RAM? We have these many bytes, these many MBs, these many KBs, and these many bytes. So always keep in mind this 1 Arab 7 crore 37,41,824 bytes are there in just 1 GB of RAM. Why I'm repeating it again and again, just to set in your mind that what is the capacity of 1 GB of RAM always. So out of this 1 Arab 7 crore and all, we have just made few memory cells, just 24. If you want, then you can expand it. Or so, wait. This is the first memory cell of RAM. Look, I'm just explaining you with the help of Excel. It doesn't simply exactly same like this, but this something close to this. It's, so every memory cell, every memory cell has got an address. Every memory cell has got an address. And in terms of the cell number, as we go in hotel or anywhere, we find the room numbers. Even in hospital, we find the room numbers. That is the name given to that room, and we refer that room with that number. The same way in memory also, then RAM also, every memory cell has got a number. This way, every memory cell has a number. So what happens? Int is a variable which takes 4 byte in memory. Why it takes 4 byte? So that we could store even large numbers. And let me explain here that if we are using byte also is a one of the variable name or one of the data type, which only take 1 byte. So let us not discuss byte right now. Let us be there with int, because int is most widely used. So the major thing that you have to understand about byte data type is it takes 4 bytes. It takes 4 bytes. Okay. So how do we create variable? Simply, first of all, write the data type, either int or byte or long or float, all are there. And then the name of variable. And for naming a variable, there are few rules, which again is already discussed, but I'll discuss these things again. But right now, let us keep the things very simple. So in short, what you have to understand here, if you really want to make a variable, then what simple steps you have to follow? You just write the name of variable, I mean the data type of which we want the variable. Int simply implies that we want to store some integers and a large integer. And just to make the point very clear, let me just show you range of data types in Java. That may once again look. So these are few data types, integer data type. Okay, numeric has 2 types, float and integer. So these are integer. Where byte uses 8 bits. 8 bits means 1 byte and can store only this range of number. Sort again is a data type which use 2 bytes, 16-bit, and can store this range of number. I mean minus 32,732 plus 3200. Int, about which we have been discussing and we normally use, the range of this int data type is this. And if we wish to store any number larger than this in an integer, then it is not possible. If you want to store a number larger than this or a number smaller than this, then for this int is not applicable. Then what we need? We need a long data type which takes 8 bytes, 64 bits. And if we'll use long, then this is the range of number that we can store there. So it's quite simple. So how to create a variable to store a number of this range? Which range? This range. From here to here we can store. You may try by your own these data types and you may see that what happens if we'll put number more than this. So int, any variable name like n1, number 1, v1 we can give variable 1, any name you can give. Your name also you can give, Raju, like this. So any name you can give. Let us give a variable 1 as v1. Let us assign, yes. This equal to sign here is an assignment operator whose task is to assign value to a variable. And this is the first way of inputting data, simply assigning a value to a variable. Suppose I want to store the number 78. So writing like this, the name of variable, I mean the type of data, int, the name of variable, and then we need an assignment operator, this. and then whatever number we wish to store, and that must be within the range of that I just told you. You may go back and see the video again to see what is the range. The same way we may create any number of variable. Any, there is no limit. So this is how we are now inputting numbers to the memory cells. And yes, the most important point, what happens when we do this? When we do this, no, what happens? That since the int takes 4 bytes, so randomly any 4 consecutive bytes, 1, 2, 3, 4, like this all get reserved. These all get reserved with the variable name v1. And here the number 78 will be stored in binary. Okay? Now what happened to v2? Now next 4 or any 4, not necessarily next byte, the available byte will be used. Since it is a random access memory, so any random memory location will be may be accessed. So they will again take 4 bytes, and these 4 bytes will be named as v2, variable 2, and their value will be, let us store 78 in simple decimal and not in this 45. And the same way, another 4 bytes will be taken, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and they will be given a name v3. And what number will be stored? 67. So this is how in memory cell, whenever we create variable, this kind of arrangement is done. And now in order to refer this or this or this, we do not need to write this number. We just write these things. Let us make the point a little more clear. Any message like value of variable 1, this is a kind of a message, and v1. Okay, let us save it. Save it and let us compile it. Look, since these all part has become comment, so they are not getting executed. Here we have v1 has this and this. We can see the memory like this, since they are taking 4 bytes. So this 4 bytes and 1, 2, 3, 4 bytes, and these 4 bytes are reserved for b1, b2, and b3, which contains these numbers. And here we are just trying to output the value of this. So in our output screen, we may find this 78 as the output, the value of b1. Suppose we want the value to be printed v2. Here also you need to make change to produce the proper output, v3, like this. Compile it back, see the output. Yes, it's working. You may also do what? You may do this v1 plus v2 plus v3, and let us see what happens. They all are concatenated. See, they are not added, they are concatenated. 78 plus 45 and 60 all together, they are concatenated. Now if you want to add, then what? So if you want to add, then copy this, paste it, and put them in a parenthesis. One error is there. Where is the error? Class intervened expected system. Something may be missing. What is missing then? System.out.println. Once again, error class interface enum expected system.out.println value variable, and then or it was not saved properly. Something might be missing from our eyes. Let me do some change here to find out the problem. Oh, this is not sensing in this way. Okay, then we'll have to do what, Look, we have to make another variable v4 and then v1 plus v2 plus v3. I have to put like this, and then we'll have to put here v4 value of or sum of or anything you can write. And let us see now if there is any error. What is happening here? Oh, now I got it. Look, this has came here. Because of this, the problems are coming. So look, it was not there visible to me. So let us remove this. Oh, okay. Let us cut it and paste it. Yes. So it needs very attentivity for it. No? And let us remove this. Make these things comment. We'll see this afterwards. And put all of them in the So as a programmer, you have to be very, concentrated. Look, now this is working. Fine. So here also we saw the same thing that we saw in the last class, that if you not use parentheses, then they will be concatenated. And if you want the real expression to be word like adding like numbers, then parentheses. Yes, again, this again worth watching. Sum of. Yes, sum is. This is also the one of the way that you